staring at me?
Damn it, Suzanne, your makeup is fine. Come on, what are you worried about? Ah! Jeez! Christ!
Stop looking at me!
9 underrated horror franchise that deserve a reboot or a decent budget extension. Horror fans never seem to get enough of a sound storyline, and this has resulted in multiple horror franchises over the years. We have been acquainted with some of the scariest monsters in horror film history.
Chucky.
I'm one of the most notorious slashers in history.
Such as the likes of Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. And the makers used these iconic characters to spin out one tale after another. From Saw to Final Destination, the list of successful horror franchise is too big to fit into a video. However, in this video, we will draw your attention to some of the less popular horror franchise. They seldom get the love and appreciation that they deserve, but they too can be an intriguing series of films to check out for a fun horror movie night.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Charlie!
Critters. This is one horror franchise that is like the smoothie made of all the best ingredients. A bit of horror, dark fantasy, sci-fi, and comedy make this an entertaining set of 5 movies. The story is about a group of deadly carnivorous aliens called Krites that resemble small furry animals. These aliens can roll up into a ball and travel across landscapes, causing massive destruction. The first 2 movies deal with bounty hunters that come from outer space to hunt these monsters on Earth. The following 2 films were based in a city and in a space station, respectively, but the crux of the matter remained more or less the same. When the movie Critters released in 1986, the director Stephen Herrick was often plagued by allegations that it was a major Gremlin ripoff. However, the director denied such claims and pointed out that the script for Critters was written long before the movie Gremlins went into production. It was a low-budget effort, but the amusing sci-fi horror left the fans asking for more. The cheesiness of 80s horror blended in with some decent creature effects, and the alien creatures looking pretty threatening in their own way. The cast put in some good performances, and from the likes of M. Emmett Walsh, Billy Zane, and Dee Wallace, you would expect nothing less. It was also hilarious that the nasty creatures even had their own language, and this film shows some of their bizarre sides to the audience. The first 4 movies came within 4 years of each other, but the last one, titled Critters Attack, released recently in 2020. The original is obviously the best one, but the others were also decent efforts and often had something new to offer. In Critters 3, Leonardo DiCaprio worked in his first ever film role, and throughout the franchise, the Critters remain the same crazy hungry monsters. Pumpkinhead. This popular slasher horror series includes a feature film, a couple of television films, and a direct-to-video flick. All the movies in this franchise have a common theme of vengeance and revolve around the demonic presence of Pumpkinhead that destroys its targets when summoned. As for the original movie, the story tells the horror after a man summons Pumpkinhead after losing his son. A group of teenagers was involved in an accident that killed the son of a local storekeeper, and he conjures a demonic creature. When he realizes that his wish for revenge has gone too far, he tries to help the kids. But is it already too late? For a debutante director, Stan Winston does a fabulous job with this movie, and the character of Pumpkinhead is more of a legend in horror film history. This wasn't by any means a commercial success, but over the years it attained a cult status among the fans that prompted the sequels. The compelling plot about a father's love for his son turning into bitter, spiteful acts will keep you glued to the screen. Stan Winston himself was an expert with special effects, and Pumpkinhead was pretty cool work. The aura of electrical storms around him wherever he went added to this mysterious character. All the kill sequences are well executed, and the film maintains a suspenseful atmosphere for the entire duration. You will get the first glimpse of Pumpkinhead only in the second half, and from that moment, things get bloodier. This inventive monster flick is a must-watch for all the horror fans out there. Unfortunately, none of the sequels could live up to the expectations created by the original. They neither had the budget nor the intent to explore the rich mythology behind this scary demon from hell.
We go to him, the first night of our 19th year.
Who the hell's him?
He who walks behind the rose.
Malachi comes! Seize him!
Children of the Corn. When you imagine all the things that might be scary, children are probably at the very bottom of your list. This is where Stephen King hits hard with a unique story that deals with a group of dangerous children who are followers of a strange cult. These children believe that anyone above the age of 18 must be killed and murdered every adult in a town. An unsuspecting young couple end up in this town in the course of their road trip and realize that there is only a slim chance of getting out alive. As far as continuity of the series is concerned, the first sequel starts off exactly where the original left off. It's about a reporter and his son who investigate the strange events of the first film. From the third installment onwards, there were mainly standalone plots that retain the theme of the strange, mysterious children. The original Children of the Corn movie is a nightmare for adults and will make you look at children with fear. There are some unforgettable moments in this film, such as the eerie musical score with the chanting of the children. The cafe scene will stick with you for times to come, as will the accidental hit-and-run sequence.
I'm so sorry.
Only this original version is an adaptation of the Stephen King story and is probably the reason that it hits the hardest. It certainly doesn't deserve all the stick it gets and is a rather thought-provoking revelation of the world of the occult. In total, there have been 11 films in this franchise, but barring the first two, the rest are forgettable direct-to-video flicks that you might want to avoid.
Kiss me, my son. Kiss me. Let me drain the life from your lips.
Ghoulies. If you have a taste for horror comedies, the chances are that you are well acquainted with the Ghoulies franchise. The set of 4 entertaining horror flicks featuring the tiny demonic creatures was quite a hit back in the day. The original Ghoulies was easily the best of the lot. It narrated the events following a troubled childhood of Jonathan, where he was almost sacrificed by his father as part of a satanic ritual. He was saved by Wolfgang and was never made aware of his past. Many years later, he moves into his father's house with his girlfriend. Things take a horrifying turn after he jokingly performs one of the ceremonies in his father's book and ends up unleashing the demonic beasts, Ghoulies. God bless the 80s and minds of those who could come up with stories so bizarre. This cheesy horror comedy is a Charles Band production, and the ridiculous nature of the plot is almost a given. The pesky Ghoulies hardly look intimidating and are more funny than scary. They did look lifelike in their nasty sharp teeth and dreadful appearance, but lifelike doesn't transform into fearsome. However, there are some remarkable moments, such as the scene where Jonathan's father rises from his grave. This movie was sandwiched between Gremlins and Critters and still managed to do good business. It was initially planned to be filmed in 3D, but the idea never materialized. Ghoulies 2 was a decent sequel, keeping alive the continuity, but the rest of the series is not really worth your time. Sleepaway Camp. Angela Baker has some traumatic memories of her childhood where a tragic accident caused the death of her entire family. When she is sent to a summer camp along with her cousin, she is immediately picked on for her introverted nature. However, after she arrives, something strange starts happening at the campsite. Some of the campers are dying violent deaths under mysterious circumstances, and nobody seems to know who is the one behind such sinister plots. Is Angela responsible for the deaths, or is it someone else? The climax of this movie, we promise, will leave you in a trance. With the abundance of horror flicks that made their presence felt in the 80s, a movie required something special to be remembered for times to come. As for this film, there are 2 scenes that will never let you forget the horror of it. The death scene where the victim dies by curling iron is a bit too graphic and comes as a shocker out of nowhere. The climatic twist is another moment that will hit you hard and make you question the events you watched unfold before you. It's often rated as one of the most shocking endings in horror film history. Overall, it is a typical scary movie that has the creepy element in the right proportion to spook the audience. It's easy to dismiss this as a random slasher, but it's so much more. Soon, the movie developed a cult following, and this prompted the makers to go for 3 sequels. The stories are related in the first 2 sequels, and it's nice to see such continuity in the franchise for a change. Blind Dead series. The success of the first few movies in the Blind Dead series led to the massive boom in Spanish horror films. The first film in the series was titled Tombs of the Blind Dead. The plot is premised on a mythical lore that a group of knights were executed back in the 13th century for practicing black magic. In 1970s Portugal, a group of vacationing students come across an abandoned monastery and somehow end up reviving the rotting corpses of these zombified evil knights. The college kids fall prey to the bloodthirsty monsters, and it seems that only a miracle can save them from the impending doom. The director Armando de Osorio was inspired by movies like Night of the Living Dead and crafted a sensational atmospheric horror flick. The narrative is a bit on the slower side, but the movie never relaxes on the thrill quotient. The locations are perfect, and combined with skillful cinematography, the movie promises to be a visually delightful experience. There are some scenes that will give you goosebumps, and the slow motion shots of the knights on their horses chasing their victims would have to be one of them. The skeletons are pretty convincing, and they look like they rose from their graves. After the success of this film, 3 official sequels were made. While all of them are noteworthy horror flicks, none can match the brilliance of the original version. It brought Osorio international fame and made the world take notice of Spanish and Portuguese films. Puppet Master. The very idea of puppets coming to life can be a scary proposition for many. Puppet Master makes the most of this fear and spans a story that starts off with André Toulon, a renowned puppet master. He came across an ancient Egyptian formula that creates life in the puppets, but committed suicide when the Nazis tried to use the technology to their advantage. Many years later, Neil Gallagher comes across the secret and summons his psychic friends. However, when they arrive, Neil's wife tells them that he is dead. As the night moves ahead, murderous puppets come to life, and the group must come to terms with the horrors they bring. When the first Puppet Master film was made, the video market was just about to receive a big boom. These weren't big-budget flicks, and the makers were happy with the rental success of the first few sequels. Coming back to the original film, the plot is exciting enough to hold the viewer's attention. You will see some gruesome death scenes that point to the violent nature of the little creatures. But these puppets aren't exactly evil and merely follow their master, who eventually reaps what he sows. This was another cult B movie from Charles Band, and it is little surprise that the Puppet Master spawned many sequels. The series has over 10 movies, but barring the first 3, it's a downhill journey. The first 2 are amazing slasher thrillers, and even the third one has a gripping narrative. You can check these out on a stormy evening for the chills. Subspecies. This Romanian-American horror franchise has 5 films directed by the same guy, Ted Nicolau. The first Subspecies film released in 1991 and was about an evil vampire, Radu. He steals the bloodstone and murders his own father before being drawn to 2 young American schoolgirls who came to work on Romanian culture. Radu's brother Stefan, however, is not an evil vampire and helps the girls get away from imminent danger. As the brothers clash, who will emerge victorious? For a direct-to-video B-movie, this vampire flick was as good as you can expect. Produced by Full Moon Pictures, the gothic theme of this film was perfected by some scenic beauty and castles that were used in filming. We have a kick-ass villain in the blood-drooling Radu, and he is quite a character with his raspy voice.
Your pain, little brother, makes me feel sick.
The Subspecies, which were evil little creatures, were an innovative addition to the plot. Initially, it was planned that the actors in costume would play these evil minions, but later on, an FX artist was roped in to work on these creatures with stop-motion puppets. Is it even surprising to have evil little creatures in a story written by Charles Band? If you have appreciated the Hammer horror titles of German horror films like Nosferatu, this movie will be to your liking. However, we must warn you against watching the fourth one in the franchise because it's going to be very disappointing after the first three.
Roger!
Night of the Demons. Sometimes all you need for a mesmerizing horror movie is a simplistic, tried and tested plot. Night of the Demons is nothing new in terms of concept, but the execution is good enough to win you over. A group of teens decides to party in an abandoned funeral parlor. The fun gathering soon turns into a nightmare where they accidentally awaken an evil force. They can no longer leave the place, and the demonic presence starts to kill them off one by one. Will there be any survivors in this hellish situation?
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. Sal wanted to go, but he decided to stick around.
The thing we love the most about this movie is the lack of pretension. It's a mindless slasher flick and tries to be nothing more than what the storyline suggests. A group of annoying teenagers dying in a Halloween party gone wrong is nothing innovative, but the presentation has the quirky, goofy thing around it that will make you watch. From gratuitous nudity to extreme violence, the movie promises everything in moderation. Some of the kills will make you sit back straight in your seats, while some others will make you laugh. The director Kevin S. Tenney succeeds in creating a creepy ambiance that finishes with an explosion once the demon action kicks off. There are 4 films in the franchise, and Tenney himself has directed the first sequel. The first sequel is a praiseworthy effort, while the third film is pretty average. In a world of average efforts, this one deserves your time for the sheer excellence amidst the simplicity.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.
What the hell's in there?